Hey y'all, and welcome to Over 40 with a Shawty. I'm Tovan, your host, and this is a podcast where we get to celebrate amazing women who have opted to wait later in life to embark upon the journey of motherhood, and they're doing it on their own terms. So, if you're a mom thinking about becoming a mom, or if you're just a woman over 40 trying to navigate this crazy world of life, love, and career, well, you have found your tribe. Join us for some real talk, for some heartfelt stories, of course, some laugh out loud moments as we talk about balancing diapers, deadlines, and them DMs. If you're ready, grab your tea, your coffee, or your tequila, your preference, no judgment, and let's get to it. So, oh my God, y'all, I'm so excited to be recording my first podcast. Okay, too much. I'm gonna bring it down. But yes. I am also, in full transparency, probably more nervous than even I am excited. This has been months in the making. I've had the vision for this podcast for probably 6 months now, and I was supposed to literally record and launch my first episode in August, and I pushed it to September, and then I just took it off the table. And so today is actually my birthday. It is my 44th birthday, to be precise. And I woke up this morning and said, okay, let me get this girl ready to go to daycare, because that's what my mind goes to in the morning. And so after dropping my Shawty off at daycare, though, I said to myself, listen, you're going to sit down and you're going to record this podcast because you've been saying you're going to do it for months now. You've been putting it off. And so you're not doing anything for your birthday today. So your gift and your way of being selfful today is to go ahead and fulfill your commitment of creating this podcast and get over yourself, right? And so here I am. I am becoming a podcaster, even though I have some reluctancies about podcasting, particularly, there are a million podcasts out there. There are lots of people who are in this space and doing podcast in general. Now, I do think that even though there are a million people podcasting, a lot of that stuff is not that great. There's a lot of great stuff, but there's a lot of not so great stuff. And my hope is that I just be a content creator with an impact. And so I'm hoping that if you're here today, you are excited about the topic of Over 40 with a Shawty, that you are going to find this to be encouraging, inspiring, and helpful, and that, I am able to thoroughly service the population of women that I consider myself connected to. So let's go. Oh, I don't think they do that no more. That's what happens when you Over 40 with a Shawty. So a little bit about me. Oh, before we go there, I need to say two things, and then we're going to move into the actual podcast. The first thing is, I don't know nothing about podcasting, and I don't know nothing about editing no video. So this first podcast episode, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. So I'll just ask for a little grace. I promise I will get better at this as I figure out all of it. So your patience is appreciated. And in the words of the 21st century philosopher Erykah Badu, now keep in mind that I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shoes. So y'all be nice, all right? The second thing I want to say is this first episode is really informal. I don't have a topic lined up for this episode. I just want to introduce myself. I want you guys to know a little bit about my story, my journey into motherhood, not into a great detail, because I plan to make this pretty short podcast and give you an idea of who I am and the type of content that I want to create and bring to life for you. So that's the plan for today, just to set your expectations. So, who am I? So I am Tovan Scott Sophia, and I just turned 44 today, as you heard me say earlier. So November 21st, Scorpio, yay. I don't share my birthday with my mother, but we typically celebrate together because her birthday is the day before mine. And fun fact, my a little Shawty was supposed to be born. Originally, my due date was November 17th, and they moved it to November 12th. She actually ended up coming October 18th, so born 36 weeks and 3 days. And so when they told me my due date, I said, oh, just what we need. Another damn Scorpio in this family. So part of me is kind of relieved that she ended up being a Libra and coming in October, because we need a little balance. We need a little balance in these generations of women. So I was born in Denver, Colorado, to military parents. So I got to move around quite a bit, and got to live in some different places, including Germany for 4.5 years. My stepdad retired here in North Carolina. And this is where I have considered home for the majority of my life. Went to middle school, high school, and graduated college here. I do have siblings. I should probably mention that. So I come from an extended and blended family. I got a lot of siblings, but I was raised in a house with one sister. And then later on, before I went to college, when I was 17 years old, my mother surprised us with another little sister. So my youngest sister is 17 years younger than me, and it's just quite a joy to have this experience as a older sibling with that much of a gap compared to having a sister who's only 2 years younger than me, and living and growing up and sharing the same parental experience that the 27-year-old just did not have, as you can imagine. So graduated college with a degree in political science, thought I was going to go to law school, decided I was tired of school, went to work, decided to go back to school, got an MBA with a specialization in human resources, worked a lot of different jobs, right, in a lot of different industries until, I settled into an HR role, like a traditional HR role. So I've been in HR for, 2 decades, I don't know, a long time. Not 2 decades. Yeah, 2 decades. My God. And I have I love it. I have a passion for HR work. I felt like when I entered into HR, I really didn't know what it was. Like I accidentally stumbled across HR and I thought it was more training, facilitation, and onboarding type stuff. And then, growing into like, oh no, HR has a real business impact depending on where you sit in the organization. And that became intriguing for me. So I have had and held a lot of different types of HR roles in my career. When I'm not being an HR professional, and before I entered my mom era, I did a lot of coaching as well outside of my day job, where I had a heart for coaching women, specifically the mid-career, a woman who just felt stuck, plateaued, looking for opportunities to continue to grow or think about rerouting herself. And so I have a passion for creating spaces and holding spaces for people to be able to explore who they are, both professionally and personally. And I personally don't think those two things are separate. The way we show up in our personal lives is often the way we show up professionally as well. And so while I say I'm a career coach, it often ends up being a lot of life coaching. And I love it. It's my passion. It feeds me. It fuels me. It develops me. I learn a lot about myself in those interactions with women. And I also feel so bonded and connected to such a variety of women with different backgrounds as a result of them entrusting me with that journey. And so, yep, I don't do that so much anymore because I just don't have the bandwidth now that I'm somebody mama. It's just I ain't got it. But I plan to do some more of that in the future when I figure that out. Also, when I'm not doing that, like when I'm not working, I like to travel. My passion is seeing the world, and I love a good trip. I don't care if it's a girl's trip, a vacation, a solo trip, which, by the way, I believe everyone should travel by themselves at least once in their life. But really, I would say at least once a year because you don't know vacation until you vacation with yourself and don't have to wake up and try to figure out, coordinate schedules and where you want to eat at and what time we going. And do you want to go do this today and blah, 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 blah. No, take yourself on vacation so you know what vacation feels like and do it once a year. Nonetheless, I digress. While I think it's important to know who I am as a mother, and you're going to hear so much of that as I continue to build out content and topics. I think it's equally important to know who I was before I was a mother. And so I'm going to just spend a few minutes telling you a little bit about my story, which I think is a part of my journey to motherhood, about my story about relationships in general. So let's talk about that. I was single for a long time. I was single. I had been single for most of my life. If I had to tell you how many real relationships I've ever had in life, I would say 4. Like real, we are in a committed relationship that we mutually have discussed, that we want to build a future together, yada, yada. And I say that to say, like, even though I consider those real, the relationships I've been in, none of those relationships were more than like 3-4 years. So, take that for what it's worth. I've dated plenty, right? So when I say I've only been in 4 real relationships, I've dated plenty. And all of these things kind of shape why I probably found love and decided to have a kid at 40. Because for me, I wasn't a serial relationship person. Like, I didn't jump from relationship to relationship. In fact, I'm pretty guarded, and it takes me a long time, even though none of my relationships ended in any kind of drama or fallout or nothing like that. It was never anything crazy. It was literally just like either the awareness, acknowledgement that we're not each other's person, or, this is not our time or our season, and let's go our separate ways. So it's never anything climatic or crazy. So nothing, no scorned X-type stories to tell per se, but also sitting in those relationships, there was a void of things and I would say a deficit of things that you experience when it's not your person that absolutely taints how you enter into a relationship or how you think about relationships. And I know that while all of the people I would say I was in a real relationship with are great people, I don't always know that they were great partners. I don't know that same for me. I don't know that I was a great partner for them, because I think there was so much about dating and loving in relationships that, like, we still don't understand that, just kind of colored those experiences. And so after the end of every relationship, I go into probably a deep introspection where I need to evaluate myself and what I want and all this other stuff. And usually that lasts about 3, 4, 5 years, y'all. Like, I really don't be thinking about another relationship. I'm dating, but I'm also dating and very clear on my intentions with these men that I'm dating, that I don't want nothing serious from you. Like, this cool, we can hang out, but miss me with that girlfriend stuff. Like, I just got out of a relationship. I'd be saying I just got out of a relationship every 3 years, like 3 years ago, but I felt like I just got out of it. Like, I just got out of something serious. I ain't trying to get back into that. So I'm telling you all of this to say that what had to happen as a result of, like, me really taking that time in between relationships and when I say focus on me, I know that sounds so cliche, because nothing was wrong with me per se, right? Like, I was good. I was in a good situation. I wasn't sitting up here looking crazy or nothing. Like, my life was in order. But I mean, focus on me in that putting my desires first, not necessarily catering to men or, relationships in general, being very self-full. And after a while, what happens is that you find so much peace in being alone. You find so much peace in being single. I found so much peace, and not just peace. I thrived. Like, single was my thing. I thrived single. I was happy. I wasn't missing anything. I didn't have this desire to supplement my happiness with anything. Like, I was happy alone. And what was so baffling to people is they could not understand, like, how are you not lonely? How are you not, don't you feel lonely? Don't you want companionship? Don't you want, it's always the, like, something's wrong with you because you don't want to be in a relationship. And I would always tell them, I'm not lonely. Like, loneliness to me suggests some sort of isolation. I'm not a recluse. I live my life. I'm out in these streets. I'm traveling. I'm seeing the world. I'm doing all the things I want to do. If I can do them with my friends, fine, but I don't wait on them. I just go. And there was so much peace. And honestly, I was just so content that a relationship was not top of mind. And to the point where in my late 30s, I was pretty dismissive of that, like life overall. Like I didn't want a marriage. I didn't, I had started to come to grips with the fact that I probably would not have kids. And so, around the 36, 37, maybe it was even 38. I don't know what year exactly it was. I decided to intentionally mourn. And I say this, I know it's going to sound so crazy, and I really don't. There's no good way, because I don't know that I really have thought about how to articulate it. So I'm kind of just doing that live through this podcast. So I apologize if this comes off as a bit random, but I had to mourn. I had to take time and intentionally like conjure up the fact that when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I did desire a husband. I did desire children, and my life wasn't that. Like my life hadn't turned into what I envisioned. And so even though I was happy, thriving, loving life, I don't think I had fully taken time to process and acknowledge like what this new version of me and this new vision of myself meant to the old me. And so there had to be like this reconciliation, which required a mourning of sorts, where I said, you can't be both people. Like you can't be fully in your era of, rich auntie, retire soon and travel the world, and, whatever that new me was going to be, right? Like whatever that vision of myself in my 40s looked like, I can't fully embrace that, because I don't know that I ever let that 20-year-old me let go of a vision that felt superficial. It didn't even really feel like mine after a while. Like I knew it wasn't, like I know that some of that visioning that we have for ourselves to have kids and have a husband is programming, right? Like it's this social pressure to want these things. And so you're kind of programmed from childhood to think that this is what your life should look like. And I had to let go of that. And so I did. I mourned that. I shed a couple of tears, and I accepted that who I am is not who I thought I was going to be, but who I am going to be is so much better. And who I aspire to be feels so much more authentic. And it feels like my own journey to create, and it feels like my own story to write finally. And so really entering into my late 30s, early 40s, baby, I was thriving. And I mean thriving. Great career, amazing friend circle, wonderful supportive friends, traveling the world, having great experiences, not limited or honestly not even bothered by how other people perceived or received the way I was living my life. Everybody's energy is not like, you're not going to vibe with everybody's energy, and that was totally cool with me. So, but I recognized that, because I was free in who I was, and I was unbothered, I was all those things, it bothered others. Just didn't get it. Like, how my life messing with you? I'm over here single in my life. I ain't messing with nobody. Husband, I ain't out here, trotting and thought. Maybe I did a little trotting and thought, maybe a little bit, but, living my life. Fast forward to meeting my spouse 7 years ago in Aruba. I'm not going to tell you the full story yet, because that's a whole long story. When I met him, because I was in the place that I was in of my, like, living my best life, appreciating, accepting, embracing singleness, I wasn't open to that in a relationship. I was completely closed to that idea. And, I'm sure I'll have him on the podcast at some point. He'll tell you his own version of the story, but I was completely close to this idea. First of all, we live on two different continents. So let's start there. This is not even a realistic vision of a relationship. But two, like, I don't want that. You trying to come in here and disturb my peace. No, sir. Miss me with that. Go see somebody else. Get somebody else to do it. No. And I was serious. Like, I was adamant. And it was an interesting few years for sure. He caught hell. I know. He clearly believes in what we have, and the vision that he had for us from day one, because we are together now, and we have beautiful love story and a beautiful love child as a result of it. But all of that to say, like, my journey to this point has been filled with like so many different versions of me. So part of this podcast for me is a couple of things. Since becoming a mom, over 40, before becoming a mom, I often talked to and told you a life coach, so I was already connected through that. But even through my friend circle, through traveling, I always meet amazing women. One thing about me is I love my friend circle. My tribe is real. They're thick. If I say pull up, they pull up. And I ain't talking about 1 to 2 people. I know some people think you can't be friends with other women, but I have an amazing friend circle. And I mean beautiful, bright, intelligent, compassionate, creative, high-spirited, high energy women who just fill my cup constantly. And I'm so grateful. And because I have this large, expansive circle of strong women, I get to hear all kinds of stories, birth stories, love stories, divorce stories, you name it. Like, I've heard it all. And I appreciate all of their perspectives, and all of it also shaped, my journey into motherhood in some shape, form, or fashion. And these are people I reach out to connect, to refill, to get encouraged and inspired by. But I recognize they also reach out to me for the same thing. So when I was single and not a mom, and let's talk about this and this about my career and this about traveling, and I want to do this. And so people have always wanted to connect with me on like, how do you just find your peace, and how do you find your grounding and become stable and comfortable in who you are? And now that I've become a mother, more people reach out, more people connect with me in the streets and want to talk about my journey. And I say in the streets, I mean, clearly we're talking, we're having some conversation that somehow leads to the discussion of how I became a mother after 40. And it's an intriguing story for them. And then sometimes they share their story with me, and sometimes they share their challenges with me and their reservations, their reluctance to becoming a mother later in life because of all the stigma and stereotypes and, horror stories and war stories that people share with you when they talk about becoming a parent. And so through those interactions, I recognized that there was a need to create community, to create support, to create conversation where people can feel free to explore all versions of themselves. The version that maybe they're still holding on to, the version that they aspire to be, the version that they might need to mourn, right, in order for something new to be birthed. And I want to create that space through this podcast. I want to create community and connection, and I want to create vulnerability in a way that you can stop pretending. Like, you can stop pretending. I hear people, I've heard friends of mine, people, but also friends in my circle who have said, I don't want kids. And I know, because I used to say the same thing. After about 30, 35, 36, 37, that was my tune. I don't want no kids. What you talking about? Messing up my style. But when they say it, I look in their face and I see something different, and your words and your body language don't match. And so I do believe that if you want kids, and even if you 45 and you want kids, that you should be completely okay with living that truth. And I think part of it is you're guarded because, can I have kids, right? There are challenges to having kids later in life for sure. So there are, there's that you're up against. Maybe you don't have a person in your life right now that you want to, parent with. And that's real, because hell, parenting by yourself ain't no joke either. That's hard. So that's hard. So I understand all the reservations that people have. What I struggle with is that when our words create our worlds, and the more we say that, the more we put it out there in the universe, and the more we start to trick ourselves into believing that that is our truth when it is not. And I just want people to just stand on their truth, whatever that is, knowing that, yeah, that might mean I'm saying this and I might not have kids. And then what does that do? Does that set me up for some kind of heartbreak? And the answer is probably parts of those versions of you are controllable, like within your control, like you will shape them. And then other parts of that will be shaped for you because lives, right? Because life be life, and we don't have control over those things. And so there's going to be plenty of times where you have to mourn what you thought it could look like so that it could look like something different for you, right? Maybe you can't have biological children, but you can adopt, or maybe you're part of someone else's village. I think moms look like a lot of different places. I feel like, yes, it's my first time birthing a child, but I've been a mama for a long time. I've been a mama to a lot of people kids, and I love that because I want to be a part of a lot of different villages, because I want my kid to have a lot of different people in her village helping in to support to rear her as she's growing up. And so maybe motherhood has to be redefined, so that it makes sense for you as you start to reinvent and re-envision who you want to be. I feel like I've been on this part of the journey and this part of the discussion for a minute, so I'm gonna transition a bit. But I look forward to exploring those discussions and those places of vulnerability, and hopefully helping people to connect with their truth and walk in that and own that. And maybe it is, your truth could be you keep telling yourself you want kids and you don't. I mean, the opposite could be true too. And, like just getting real and having those conversations, either with a counselor, right? Therapy, with your friend group. All friend groups aren't for every conversation. And so I think these type of communities need to exist so that you can hear the varied perspectives of women and their respective parts of the journey that they're in, to shape an educated decision on some of that as well. So I just said a lot, and really my goal was to take you through like this journey of who I was before I was a mom, so that when we start talking about my journey into motherhood, like the actual journey of pregnancy and birthing a baby and now rearing a baby, you kind of have an idea of how much life has shifted for me and much I am being shaped by this experience to think about the next version of myself, even as I'm becoming this version of me that I never envisioned, or I shouldn't say never envisioned, that I don't know that I could have envisioned in this way. So that is a little bit about me. And yeah, I mean, we have a lot to talk about, y'all. We have a lot to talk about, and I hope that you're excited about having these conversations with me. We're going to have some guest speakers. I'm hoping to bring people from the medical field so we can talk about, Black maternal health issues. It's real. I want to bring, doulas and midwives and people that can help you think about non-traditional ways of experiencing your pregnancy and your birth and your birthing of your child and all of that, and your postpartum care. I want to talk about postpartum care, y'all, and what that really means, because honey, people don't tell you the whole truth about this. So I want us to get real as possible about what that means and how do you get back to yourself, or at least the new version of yourself. I want to talk about it all, the good, the bad, the ugly, the all of it. I hope you are ready for that. That's it. Like, I don't have nothing else to say, y'all. Thank you for being patient and listening to me ramble for this first episode. Again, like I told you, I'm not a podcaster. I don't know how this goes. I guess I'll write a script next time. I don't know. If you're a podcaster, maybe you got some tips for me. And again, like I said, I'm not a video editor, so don't be expecting a whole lot of fancy editing. I don't know. I'm gonna try to add some music to this eventually. If I can get it added, okay. If I can't, we're gonna try next episode. But I appreciate you, seriously. It's my birthday. I just want to remind you of that. And before I go, I want to drop one more quote from another 21st century philosopher, Jay-Z. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. So I'm not a podcaster or a YouTuber, but you listen to a lot of podcasts and YouTube videos. And I know that this is the part, or maybe I should have done this in the beginning, but now it's at the end, so I don't know, because I don't know how to go back and add it at the beginning. But like, subscribe, follow. Till next time.